Hey, Annette, a few questions before we talk about the movie. I've always been fascinated with the jobs that actors have before they become actors. Now, working as a cook on a boat, what valuable life experiences did you come away with from that?
Um, that you can do something that you have no idea how to do if you just sort of plow into it. You know, because when I think about it in retrospect, I was cooking for 20 and sometimes 30 people. But I wanted to do it so badly, and the idea was so interesting to me because I had just learned to scuba dive, and I had gone out on the boat once as a passenger, that it intrigued me, and I didn't, you know, now I think I would say to myself, well, I can't do that. I can't cook for 20 people. That's crazy. But I did it then just because it didn't occur to me that would be too hard for me to do. But having said that, I think I was an incredibly mediocre cook. I remember making the scrambled eggs and thinking how great it was when they were in little brown squares. So they must have been terrible. And I do remember one group when we took a trip to Mexico for 5 days, which was obvious. Those were our longest trips. They were from Las Vegas. They were called the Desert Divers. There are people from Las Vegas who scuba dive. And, you know, I thought that was very unusual. Anyway, they, I think, really did have serious complaints about me. But it was great. It was great.
You know, a lot of actors early in their careers, they do TV commercials to make money. Now, is that something that you ever...
I tried. Oh, I tried. When I was living in New York and I was doing theater, I was trying to get commercials. I got one national commercial, which is what you're trying to get, because those are the most lucrative. And I shot it. It was an arid commercial, you know, the underarm perspiration problem. And I shot it, and they put it on hold, that means they might air it, but they don't know for sure. But you get a certain amount of money while you're on hold. So that was great. But they never really aired it. No, but I think I did one. I did one that did air for Ore-Ida Potatoes. That was MOS, meaning totally without sound. I was the mommy, and it did air, and I made some money from it. So,
well, a question about this movie, about meeting like a real female CIA officer. I'm wondering about the protocol involved with that. Is it something where they're saying, okay, go to the subway station and walk down the street, knock on a door, or is it meet at the Sizzler at 10 o'clock for lunch?
No, see, she's employed by the CIA now to be a press liaison. So she's totally ready, and there was a certain amount of spin that she was doing to promote the image of the CIA. So no, this was all totally above board. She used to work undercover, and she now is, a spokesperson for the CIA. So no, she came into a hotel suite with the other guy who was hired on the film to be an expert. He was ex-CIA, ex-FBI, and Delta Force, and he had trained with her, which is how he knew her. And she was terrific. She was really helpful to me and very open, and I appreciated it, especially the more personal issues, which is what I was interested in really finding out about. I mean, she couldn't really tell me anything about her professional life anyway. You know, if I asked her where she worked, she said somewhere in Europe. And so she wasn't very forthcoming about the actual jobs that she was on. But she did tell me about, I wanted to know things like, well, if you're working undercover and you're in your 30s and you're a beautiful woman, she speaks 5 languages. What happens if you meet somebody? I mean, don't you have, you must have those needs. I mean, what about that? And when do you tell someone who you really are? And there's a protocol in the CIA about how you're supposed to handle that. And so it was very interesting.
And last question, you shot movies in different parts of the United States. I'm just thinking, when you're shooting in New York City and you're causing massive traffic jams, how are the bystanders reacting to the film crew?
They're pretty tolerant in New York. We were shooting at night a lot, so obviously, I mean, that means all night. That means you start around 4 or 5 in the afternoon. When it gets dark, you begin to shoot, and you shoot all night long. We closed down Times Square a couple of times, and we're shooting. That was really interesting. So by and large, people are, there aren't a lot of people around. But New Yorkers I think, are pretty tolerant of the film crews, and they understand when they walk by. They're kind of intrigued. They want to know what movie it is, and so the productions try to do their best not to disrupt traffic too much.